Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche, done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tide. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
We'll be
Every
He
time
didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't
Fine.
get fired. He never got his contract renewed. Well, hey guys, welcome back to Two Guys and Hockey Talk. This is season 5, episode 13. I got Pawel the Cat beside me, Evan Rev Reynolds at ya. This episode is brought to you by Sports Empire Network. Pawel, go ahead. Let them know what they can catch at the good old Sports Empire Network and podcasts.
Oh, we love all the guys there and gals at Sports Empire. Jody, Gene, Kyle, everyone out there doing great work, coast to coast, wire to wire. All their coverage of baseball, NFL right now is big, basketball, wrestling, whatever your sports needs are, you find them. And we are their exclusive hockey content, so make sure you like, share, and follow. Evan, how you doing? How's your week been?
Oh, well, I'm not wearing a mask because I am isolating during the podcast. But yeah, it was a rough last couple of days here. Kind of forced my way through today. The day before was just terrible, no sleep. But you know what? I can't blame it on you. Unfortunately, I wish I could, but I can't. And it was just the old body breaking down with everything that's out there. And here's the thing. Viruses, right? Viruses get in, just like they get in your computer, they get in your body. And I think we should start off today's show with a virus that seemed to get in to social media all around rumors and the Chicago Blackhawks once again. So we never talked what we were all covering here today for your side and my side, but I think we should jump in here right away and address and update everyone. Do you want to give the update from what you can? And then I'll join in with your conversation.
The long story short, Corey Perry, who was signed this offseason for $4+ million, his contract has been terminated by the Chicago Blackhawks organization. Yesterday afternoon, around 3 p.m., 4 p.m. Central Time, Kyle Davison, the GM, the new GM of the Chicago Blackhawks, came out, gave a quick kind of 10-minute report about what's been going on, kind of gave vague but some details about why the decision was made to remove Corey Perry a few weeks back from the ice when they were just traveling around the time of Columbus when the incident took place. They wouldn't get into details, and he essentially indicated that there would be no more further relationship with Corey Perry, given that he broke not only his own personal conduct, but the conduct that has been set in place by the Chicago Blackhawks organization, as well as, I'm sure, probably within the NHLPA standards and potentially the NHL. Now, they've been updated. They haven't said anything. They haven't made a statement, but that's essentially what it is. So as of today, he is a free agent. That contract is gone. And essentially, there's a lot of speculations. Now, prior to this, there was a tentative rumor on social media swirling from what I can only gather was a text message that somebody snapshot and said they knew from a friend of a friend, quote unquote. And it turned out that there was an inappropriate action with someone in the organization. That's all I want to get into. I don't want to speculate more into specifically.
Yeah,
what it is.
you don't want to highlight exactly what it was. They can go read it. Yeah.
There's memes. There's people posting it nonstop. I did have an argument with a few people about it. You can go in there. Ray is very right. The problem is the Blackhawks aren't doing much to help themselves by telling people its conduct is detrimental to the team. We're going to get into that. But long story short, this impacts a lot of people. This impacts a lot in the NHL and the social media world, but specifically impacts that locker room. And more specifically, the young stars. Now, Evan, we just went through this with Columbus and people looking through their phones. Yeah. And we saw what happened with Mike Babcock there. This does not bode for all the young guys in Columbus who are supposed to be the future because they are rebuilding. And I think it's not very fair for them and people that they're surrounded by to have their names drawn through the mud.
Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Okay, so Ray, I'm going to pull your statement off here. So just read out loud. The problem is the Blackhawks aren't doing much to help themselves by telling people it's conduct detrimental to the team. Yes, in full agreement here also with Ray that is part of the problem. There is a dilemma. So I do want to say sometimes when a tweet goes out in social media, I put something out there, you know, a couple hundred people will take a look, say something, maybe 5, 7, 10. This one, I've caused quite a stir. You know, was it purposeful? Not really. I just said it's, and I'm not even going to give information of where you can go read on all the tweets and stuff, and you can kind of work your way through. There was a particular site that has probably 25,000 followers that specifically called out and said that it was family related and there was inappropriate conduct with a family member during a mom's trip. That's essentially. The first thing I did is I went on and said, this is a ridiculous rumor. So first of all, what I am going to say is the reason, let's just say hypothetically, whether it was exact person, different people, let's just say it was true. First of all, don't jump to the gun and just believe that it's automatic because of the past. They are trying to make a difference, whether you believe they are or not. They're trying to change how they do it. Now, whether it just cover up or whatever, I don't know, and I'm not going to proclaim to know. I think that they're trying to do things right. Otherwise, they're going to face some major consequences. I do not believe it's illegal activity. It's ethical. There's conduct issues. But here's the thing. That person went out and shared something. Now, the problem is when they go to share something, they brought someone that's not even from the hockey world into social media, and they say, well, everybody should be allowed to know. Now, unless you have your facts, this doesn't change a lot from a lot of the facts that were wrong in the Evander Kane situation as well. When you start saying stuff, you could be right. No one's saying you're absolutely wrong. You could be right about some stuff. But really, when you throw stuff out there, know that everyone's going to jump on it. Some people say, well, we're just joking and stuff. Yeah, but how would you like to be dragged through social media with thousands upon tens of thousands of people? So that tweet that I mentioned, it was a ridiculous rumor, and I can't believe people are actually taking this serious. I garnered over 95,000 different impressions on that one tweet. I mean, like, come on, guys. Now, I know I'm following the Blackhawks much closer to watch how they handle themselves and the upcoming Bedard, but, like, come on, man. So anyway, here's the thing. One of the problems we run into is HR related. So they didn't share enough information for people. But the problem is what can they share? Because you are limited by law of not just sharing everything with your players. But I do believe where Ray's saying they didn't do themselves a favor, what they need to do is come up. So I don't know. Let's just say he pissed on the coach's desk. Let's just pick something totally. No, you watch. I'll become a rumor. So if he took a leak on the guy's desk, thinking it's a joke or something, and they said that conduct. Now, they may not disclose it. They're probably not going to disclose it.
So Emily Kaplan has disclosed it today that it was inappropriate behavior with a team staff member.
Yeah, I did a follow-up on that, and it's not exactly as it sounds still. I think we still need to give this a couple days. It could be very true, which makes sense why it kind of sat around there. But I think what you're saying right now, if they had come out and say it was conduct, because it said it had nothing to do with the team, any player, and or their family. That's what Kyle had said. But it still has to do with internally, regardless, around all those things. So good for them for coming out, but I think they could have shared more information if that is in fact the truth behind that.
So my only critique of the whole situation, and we'll get to Bruce's comment in just a second.
Okay.
My critique of the situation of the Blackhawks is, I understand. I spoke to a lawyer friend, and the lawyer friend said, just as you were indicating what HR would go through, they had to rifle through all the information, do the investigation. It was done pretty quickly in terms of
it was.
Information was gathered, shared, and then the evidence needed to be followed up on with all the necessary parties. And of course, legality in terms of what you can say. And as I indicated earlier, talking to the NHLPA, if you can go ahead with this, talking with the NHL and how the contract negotiations or extent, like the termination would look. All these things are very key. However, given how this blew out of proportion and the delay that they had in the response, and of course, Kyle Davison was very remorseful and almost tearful in his press conference.
That was tough.
They should have released that statement, or maybe a variation of it, a little sooner, saying, because when he was missing from the ice, what it's been now, like a week and a half, like when he's been missing, along with Peter Mrazek, I know initially people are like, oh, there's trade rumors, maybe Edmonton, ... They could have said, we are just following up on some suspicious activity or an investigation in terms of a player internally. And that's it. More details to follow. Had they done that, a lot of this could have been avoided. Because that was not done, that is where I think the Blackhawks failed. And that is why they've had a hard time with the PR behind this situation. There's going to be a lot of growing pains with this organization, and it's going to take a while for them to rebuild the trust, not only of that fan base, but the entire NHL, in order to get some good graces again, given the history of what happened with Kyle Beach, as well as the second assailant that came forward just more recently this year. And that, I think, is the problem. I know we've had this discussion with some of the fans that are tuning in. And if you don't have that, Evan, that's where you get into trouble. The problem is, and I do put this a little bit on the NHL, they can be a little archaic sometimes. And we've seen this with some of the initiatives. We've seen this, and maybe we can get into it with Marc-Andre Fleury and the mask. But really, at the end of the day, they just sweep it under the rug and say, you know what, this isn't working for us, or it'll blow over. We'll get over it. Now, Bruce asks, could you please say if Corey Perry will please play again in the NHL if somebody was signed in? I believe, depending on what specifically happened, he can, provided the Chicago Blackhawks provide the NHL teams the rationale of the investigation of what happened, so they know who they're bringing internally into their organization. Because, Evan,
that's true.
He's going to be asked by that social media group or that media conglomerate, whether it's Edmonton, whether it's Toronto, whether it's Vancouver, and it's even more proliferated in the Canadian markets. But even if he goes to, let's say, Carolina, even if he goes to, let's say, in Anaheim, back there, right?
Yeah.
He's going to face scrutiny, and he's going to be asked about it. And he's got to be ready to answer those questions. And the organization, as well as the teammates, his new teammates, are going to need to answer that. Now, he can definitely come back. He also, as people may not know, has 60 days as of today to file a grievance against this cause of dismissal. Because this is what it is. It's a firing of an employee. So we're going to see if he's going to even pursue that. Because he, through his agent, Pat Brisson, took some time to take some personal time to spend with his family, because I know this is impacting him as well. And let's not forget, Evan, and people can disagree, he potentially could have been a Hall of Famer here. He has a Stanley Cup. He has a Hart Trophy under his name. He's been to the conference finals, Stanley Cup finals quite a few times, 3 in a row with 3 different teams. Like, this guy has had a hell of a career. You know, he's had some questionable hits. We know he's gritty. Some people love him, some people hate him, depending on where he's played. But really, there's a lot going on here. Any thoughts to that?
Yeah, so let me just kind of go in this. Bruce is, hang on, let me just throw this down. Now, DeGrig, I am not going to place up on the screen. If anyone reads yours, they can. I do not agree with you at all in your post there on Kyle Beach, but I will not put that on our main page. But So Ray says it's almost like the Blackhawks can't get anything right in the last few years, especially off the ice. And this team was rewarded with Bedard. And I get the frustration. I know we've talked about that before. Now let me just kind of go into Bruce. So Bruce is just coming back. He says, I feel all the players and teammates will want to play with Corey, as I feel he has great leadership skills and good hockey still today, which I think this year he was looking rejuvenated, even after these many years of playing in the league. And then he goes on to say, and thank you for sharing your feelings on this very sad subject. And I feel all we can do is pray for Corey for healing himself and those around. So this is what I do want to mention. And then I want to come to his question about playing elsewhere, blah, 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 and whatever that may be. I do want to make mention that now I'm going to take that whatever we've heard from anybody reporting anything outside of Kyle Davidson making his report and what the team has said. Now I'm just going to take a neutral stand. So if you're already on one side, then don't worry about it. You may not be with my take on this, but I always think that we don't make someone in other words, we don't make them guilty. We assume innocence until then. If this is just bad conduct of doing something stupid and it's ethics, it's maybe having interpersonal relations within a team or something. That's one thing, right? To call it the way it exactly has been called. If this is making unwanted passes at someone, then this is a much bigger thing that should be exposed. But I do worry that the Blackhawks organization is worried about millions of dollars in lawsuits, if it is. But this will come out. The bottom line is this will come out. Whatever is the full truth, 100% of that truth. I do believe that, right? With it. So Ray makes up a point. So let me go to my next piece. Ray says, sadly, with all their injuries, the Devils could probably use them. And, of course, it was already mentioned earlier here by Bruce. He was asking
Ray,
about...
I wanted them to go after Hellebuck, but clearly he re-signed and was comfortable staying in Winnipeg. But, and now I still think Gibson is their prized possession out of what's called Anaheim. So we can get into it. But, yeah, at the end of the day, there's...
Jordan... You need the truth about the Mums trip. And the truth about the Mums trip is they said no Jordan Robert can go on their trip. That's what they've said. So there's your truth.
No Jordan Robert beards.
Yeah. Okay. So I do want to mention that Friedman has talked that there's already teams that have looked into the inquiry around Corey Perry, but they're doing due diligence to find out what's in behind. They can find out more than you and I as a fan are going to find out, or any media. So if he gets signed, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish off.
If he gets signed, I'm going to say that this is more of this is not something that he has done wrong to anyone. This would be something that there was just bad ethics used in this case of something that was not acceptable within the organization, because no other team is going to sign him otherwise. Otherwise, they're going to have, they thought nightmare in Columbus. This will become a bigger nightmare.
Yeah, and two of those teams exactly like they struggled with trying to get out and having somewhat solid starts. Hey, Kyle, how you doing? We got to get into the Bruins because there's been some questionable comments that Montgomery has made about his team. But
so before we finish that, and then let me continue with the mask issue next, because that all falls under other information.
So we'll get into that. So with Corey Perry, remember, guys, he can sign now for a league minimum, $750, $825, something like that. Again, the problem is how comfortable does that team right now in Chicago feel, and what can they do to shelter the young guys, right, in order for them to just go out there and play? Because you have a superstar in Connor Bedard. You have some young pieces, and you brought in Nick Foligno, and you brought in Corey Perry to protect these guys.
And Taylor Hall.
And to solidify them. Now, we all know Taylor Hall's out for the rest of the season, and he's not going to be back. But I really think that Chicago really needs to take a hard look and have no media or bad media right now in the next little bit, zero.
Yeah.
Everything is just basic. Stick to hockey, nothing else.
Yeah.
No other rumors, no other wild things, unless there's a trade, because you cannot afford it. You are trying to rebuild. You need to sell tickets. You need to sell hope. And if you can't even sell that because of the chaos internally, well, we've seen that play out in some other markets, right?
Okay. Okay, we're on Toronto. So, Bruce, I just put yours up on there, just saying about what they're going to say. Let's remember, even if this is not as serious as some of us have thought it might be, the Blackhawks can't mess around. They have no choice but to remove, just like they couldn't mess around with Babcock based on his past. They had to move on, even if there's any slight innocence to anything. The fact is, lines were crossed. You got to move on and get out of that. And the fact is, they didn't have to pay to get out of that. It was terminated, right? Meaning that they're not paying, which tells us something in his contract he went against. And that's all that matters. But the big thing I think fans want to know, if there was any illegal activity, they need to be made aware of it. And I agree with them 100%. If anything is illegal in any manner, this should actually be exposed and be brought out. But there might be even more to this story. I don't think there is. I think that it's minimal, working with it. So, okay, can we go around the mask? So, Marc-Andre Fleury. So you started it. So why don't you go ahead and start it, and then I'll do a wrap on that piece, and then we'll go into all these different moves and things that can happen between the Blackhawks, the Devils, the Bruins, Oilers. Who knows, man? The Canucks are falling like crazy. Vegas is falling. There's a whole bunch of stuff happening, and we haven't even got to other things outside of the league.
Yeah. So essentially what it was is that Marc-Andre Fleury found an Indigenous artist who came out to design his mask in honor of his wife, I believe it is, who has some Indigenous roots, and he wanted to wear it. And when the NHL heard about it, they put a hard line saying no. So then, of course, his agent, Alan Walsh, came out and said, hey, what is going on? This is silly, ridiculous. And they said they would fine him. But Marc-Andre Fleury said he'd still wear it no matter what, even though technically he wasn't going to be playing that game. It was just during warm-up. So then the NHL stepped in and said, actually, we're going to find the Minnesota Wild organization. And then, of course, he still wore it anyways during warm-up, and this was the game versus Colorado Avalanche, which they lost. It was a fun game, but essentially what it was is, once again, the NHL has taken this weird, archaic stance of you can't have specific designs of specific themes behind. Ray's asking for something NHL positive. We will, Ray. I promise.
But no, I think he's making a.
He wore it.
Yeah.
And again, blow up on social media, but in the positive change where it's like, what are you guys doing? So your thoughts, Evan, on what transpired and what really is going on? Because there's a lot going on with Minnesota, which I want to get into, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I believe it was Daly that came out with it, and there was more talk that came around this. Ray, I am laughing out loud without trying to be too loud on the podcast. But you are 100% right. Every time you turn around, there's something going on. They're messing up. I mean, they can't. We haven't even got to the stick swinging incident, man. I feel like this is a long rant. And we haven't even got to a rant of the night. So I do want to make a rant of the night based on that stick swinging incident with Jacob Trouba. So, okay, so let's pull this piece off and go back to Marc-Andre Fleury. So this is maybe something that you guys can banter about and see if you have a different idea here. But one of the things that they're worried about, and they did come out and make mention, it's nothing to do because it was Indigenous that they were looking and like for putting up breast cancer, any of those types of things. But what their concern is if you allow one thing, how do they limit some things and not other things? Because they're going to be called out from a different group of people. And I think that is the issue that they're struggling with. They're trying to figure out how can we, for example, we don't get a bunch of swastikas basically put out there on helmets, people going crazy. And that is one of the things that they talked about. So, which tells me that they're trying to come up with a method of how they can support things. But this is what I think. I think, what if you had to mandate? This is my solution. It may not be perfect, but what they need to do is go through league approval. It's a private court, like something behind doors with your agent, with whoever, with the team, and they have to go through league approval in advance of, like, let's say 30-day advance on something, so that it can actually be agreed upon ahead of time. So people can't just randomly do stuff, because right now they force them into some bad situations. So, and I say bad because they're everyone's following Bettman right now like they're a bunch of sheep. I mean, this is crazy. And let's face it, the league office is really based on the chairman, who are the owners of the franchises. And it's the owners of the franchises who are allowing this crap to happen. So it all falls back on them, right, in the end. So that's my take. Hey, can we go back? Let's just hit on the Blackhawks. You mentioned about who could they be bringing in.
Well, they did. So they brought in Anthony Beauvillier for a 5th-round pick, who was originally in Vancouver, traded from the Horvat trade.
I was just going to read it, and you cut me off in the middle of something.
Go ahead.
Because I said, who are they going to? And then you said, well, they've already done, and I didn't get a chance to. But yeah, no, you were absolutely right. So just in understanding that, it's because they needed another player to move into the mix, something that they could bring in. But my understanding, with a few people that are sharing right now, the Blackhawks are doing extremely well with their young folk without getting a lot of mentoring and veteranship. And they're not too worried about the end result at the end of the year, other than entertainment. The Blackhawks on the ice are entertaining the fans. They're being good competition for other teams, and they're learning on the go. So what it sounds like is they're not going to pursue too much unless someone comes their way, gives them an offer they want, or if they start really struggling, which my guess is I give them another 15, 20 games, and everybody's going to figure out their young boys, because they don't know a lot of those players in the system or what their habits are out there, right? That's why a goalie can do so well in his rookie season, and then the next year it can fall flat on his face, because they've learned the techniques that he uses. They've learned his little rituals, the things that he makes a move. Maybe he only raises his glove an inch instead of 3 inches, right? They learn those things. And then it takes the goalie another year to adjust to get up to it, right?
So, Ray wants us to get into it. So, hockey talk, some positives, but kind of not really. Dean Evison has been let go by the Minnesota Wild. You guys let us know if it's a good idea or a
positive
bad idea, Bill Guerin. And if John Hayes is the right replacement, because I don't think it is. This team has struggles. They have a lot of cup aspirations. They're at the cap. Bill Guerin just re-signed a lot of the guys to extensions, guys that were on expiring contracts, like a Ryan Hartman, who also slew-footed recently and was, I believe he was suspended, which is, it's getting insane.
Yeah.
And I was wondering also in the back of my mind, like, what do they do? Kaprizov hasn't been going, Evan. Granted, they have a few young guys that have been going well, but really their goaltending has struggled, just like in Edmonton.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do you think that John Hayes is a good fit for this team? Can they make the playoffs like some of the other struggling teams, or what's going on? Or is Bill Guerin's job on the line?
I'm going to listen to Coach Ray Leo and follow his take and say that he is not the answer. They're not going to make the playoffs. Now, I didn't catch that today. Did that all happen today? I guess I was too busy yesterday at the end of the day. What did they sign Hines to? Do we know? Was it just to the end?
I didn't see that. I think it's just.
So Ray,
I don't know if I saw the number.
So Ray, do you know? Was it just for this year, or was it another year? Jordan says the Wild aren't doing anything. I mean, and they're still hamstrung by a lot of decisions of players they're still paying out and stuff.
Buyouts that they did.
Yeah, I mean, so isn't it interesting how in the NHL, 1 minute everyone can go, wow, look at the Wild, Bill Guerin, man, look at they're doing this. And the next minute it's just like, what a bunch of bums. It was like the Oilers last year, right? Look how good they are. And then it's like they lose in the playoffs, a bunch of bums. And then they start the year, they're going to win the cup. No, it's just like they won't even make the playoffs.
Two bright spots for that team, and people should really, if they're watching Minnesota, and Minnesota fans can attest to this, is Brock Faber. He's been a young hot spot, and Marco Rossi, who dealt with some health issues, I think it was last year. So both young players really come and making an impact. Brock Faber's playing about 20-plus minutes on the blue line, so he's really making an impact. But really, you know what I want to say, Evan? And maybe it sounds silly, they're missing Matt Dumba. I know he's in Arizona, but they're missing Matt Dumba.
So what do you think they're missing about? What do you think they're missing about him?
The physicality, maybe, bringing him into the game, the fight that he brings. I don't know, because like they're a big what's it called? Big team. Yeah, the Parisian super contracts. It's been biting him, and it's still going to go on for a while. Anyways, you guys can let us know, Minnesota fans. I know we don't always get a chance to chat. Let us know, what do you think of Minnesota? Now, on to the Jacob Trouba.
So hang on. So you really want to go there? Okay,
no,
let's go.
Somewhere else.
No, let's go there. Let's start, because this is going to be the rant of the night. Are you giving the rant, or am I giving the rant? Or we'll do a double rant. Let's give a double rant. You'll start it, and I'll you start. Okay, I'll start the rant. You finish it. Okay. Okay. Let's do that. So, guys, the rant of the night is brought to you by the Kalkaska Battlers of the Michigan Independence Hockey League. They are in their inaugural season. It is the 4th season of the MIHL. We are proud partners with them. If you get a chance to go up to Kalkaska in northern Michigan, they are a semi-pro league working their way. You can follow them on YouTube. Make sure you check them out, and their owner, Andrew Dibble, who we hope to have on really soon. All right, guys, let's go to our rant of the night. Okay, what the heck is going on? What the heck is going on with Jacob Trouba, man? We give him credit and say this guy can lay out hits, and now he takes his stick and he swings it, smacks a guy right in the face, and he gets a $5,000 fine. And nothing. The refs are right there. They're looking at this thing. That is a 20-game suspension in my mind. I am fuming, man. I am fuming. I like Jacob Trouba. But what the heck is the NHL doing? And I'm doing the very thing that Ray said. Can we talk positive? Ray, I can't talk positive when they let a guy like Jacob Trouba, they're going to call it, next thing, he's going to be called Jacob the Headhunter. Like, that was ridiculous. And let me tell you my bigger problem with this, Pawel, is that nobody went to his defense. If I was his, like, when I mean nobody defense, I'm meaning we don't go up and shake him or push him or knock him. I take him and I bash his head in, man, right there on the ice. I don't care how nice I am. I don't care if I get a 5-game suspension. I'm going to show you do not take a stick and swing. I have come in a men's rec league from one side with my goaltender equipment. There was someone they were on their own blue line, and they took a stick and they swung and hit my one of my guys right over the head, right over top of the helmet, and just came down and then tried to do it again like a sword. Man, I was down there like nothing. I jumped that guy like I was Hulk Hogan laying the leg drop, man. Not appropriate, not okay. And that team should be going after Bettman and the rest of the crew in the disciplinary action. This is ridiculous. Okay, man. I don't want to keep going because I'm wound.
No, that's fair. I mean, I will agree with you. I think it should have been at least 5-game suspension. Now, the reason being is we saw what Pietrangelo did to hack Draisaitl last year in the playoffs, and he got at least 1. Jordan is saying Trouba is an absolute goon, but 20 games. He's not Rafi Torres even. I mean, I think 3 to 5 games would have been perfect. The problem is that's not a hockey play. That is not what you do with your stick. You are in control of your stick, and you should not be swinging, regardless of what the slow motion feed is, because you know what it is? You're trying to hurt the other player, Trent Frederick of Boston. Now, we'll get into Boston in a bit, but like I didn't like it. And I like Trouba's hits because most of the time he does good quality,
Absolutely.
borderline hits. People aren't always going to like him. The one against Crosby last year in the playoffs or 2 years ago in the playoffs, you know, he can really dish it out. Recently against, and Jamie Dassman can attest for this, against the Philadelphia Flyers, you know, he knows how to throw a punch and he knows how to throw the body. That I don't like, not at that state. And the fact that the refs didn't do anything, that's an onus on the NHL. That's a black eye again. And they continue to get that's my only thing. Now, let's get into Boston because they have not been playing well, and Jim Montgomery called them out. Unless there's anything else people want to talk about.
No, I'm laughing. Boston's doing so good, and they win a few games, lose a few games, and we're saying they're not playing well. That's how good they've been, man. That's how good they've been. Go ahead.
No, I think it's good that Jim Montgomery has called them out because their play has lacked a bit. Marchand has struggled a little bit, and I think they really need to just stick to the basics because they were doing so well together. Now, every team regresses. You indicated earlier quite a few teams are now regressing, Vancouver, Vegas. But the thing with Boston is that they weren't supposed to be where they are. And so maybe now they're kind of coming down to earth and being the team that they're actually pretty much based on paper. I still have faith in them. I still think that they make the playoffs. but I don't know. Like they need to play a bit better. And I still think that there's a trade happening with them by the trade deadline for a center. And I still am looking at Calgary and Elias Lindholm.
Yeah, you think Lindholm's going out? Where do you see him going? Okay, guys, let's start the rumors. Where's Lindholm going? You say Boston.
Yeah. Now, Evan, have you ever watched brother versus brother yell at each other while grandma of said brothers is watching, saying, "Oh my goodness, what's happening?" That was the Florida Panthers versus the Ottawa Senators. I watched that game. What was going on? Everyone on the ice, minus the goalies, all got penalties. That bench was shortened so much that the backup goalie, sorry, I'm reading Ray's comments too.
Yeah, I know. It's hard. These guys are just popping out the comments tonight here. So
the backup goalie came on the bench and was even grabbing some of the player stick to be like, "Put me out there, coach. I'm ready," to DJ Smith, So it was wild. There was some questionable calls. Now, Ottawa's really struggled, and I wonder if that's the next coach to go. DJ Smith, Your thoughts? Do you think he's going to be let go? And, Evan, conspiracy hat on, do you think that with Steve Staios, who was within the Edmonton Oilers organization, will bring about Jay Woodcroft and Dave Mattson with him?
Let's just say if they're not anyone who is hiring outside of their organization, Jay Woodcroft will be the next coach. If he chooses to go there. Chooses to go there.
He still has time left on his contract.
Yeah. Well, yeah. $3 million a year he's got another 2 years. He signed a $3 million 3-year contract. He's sitting at home. He's doing well. Jay's not complaining. The winningest coach in Oilers history. I know it was a short term, but no other coach can actually say that. And the guy has nothing but a winning record and can do a lot. So I do want to mention. So Ray said, Cry me a river. Boston isn't playing well. You're going to be hard pressed to find anyone that feels bad. And then Jordan also pops in and says, maybe the NHL's corrupt? Question mark. We don't talk about this enough, but I hear it from fans of every team all the time. And Jordan has a very good point over here. He's calling in on Facebook and he's bringing this to our attention because can you think of a team that does not think that there's some type of corruption coming in? So now, do you want me to get to DJ or do you have another question before I hit on that one?
No, get it to DJ and your thoughts. What's going on with Ottawa?
So I don't think that Ottawa knows now they're not the team. I said it at the beginning of the year. I didn't think this was going to happen. God bless an old friend of ours that was on the show, Kevin Francis, who used to write for Hockey Buzz. He, as much as people like to complain about things, he was good at pushing it aside to a certain point. He did talk about in the end that mental health, is always a tough thing to deal with, but he had some really good inside information that people just never believe. DJ was one of them. The GM is now gone, who is the other one. And he talked about this a while back. And I want to say that I know that, so they're going to be getting a player. Why would you go and change the coach when you're going to be hard pressed to make the playoffs, probably? Why would you get him now? Why don't you wait, take a little time, have a few side conversations, see what's available? Because if the right person's not available, because right now, is the right person available? Actually, I think Woodcroft is the perfect fit, but I'm not sure they're ready to make a move, probably for another 20, 25 games, lock themselves into a good top 5. So they have one last year to give it because we know they're all ready. There's just a couple tweaks and a couple players that are coming in. Pinto's going to be coming back after, the 40-some game mark?
43.
They're going to 43.
42,
so
he'd be back in game 43.
And it's not that I think that DJ is not a good coach. I just think that he's not going to be the one that's going to be able to do. And let's face it, coaches are always the ones led to the slaughter.
Yeah. The problem is that I watched that game, and you could definitely tell there was a miscommunication in the blue line and on the 5 guys on the ice. And it came to the point where even Korpisalo got upset and was yelling at the players because they weren't paying attention of who to come back to get the puck right behind their own net. So that kind of communication, you can't have that. Like, that's just that. Now let's give it to the Florida Panthers because they are tenacious. They are wild.
Crazy.
I'm looking forward to going to the game with Jordan to seeing them when they play Edmonton. Should be a doozy. But I tell you, Evan, they are a nasty bunch. right? And Ray's right. It's always easier to change one coach instead of 22 players. Granted, that some of those players are having good seasons so far. It's just overall cohesively, the team has struggled, and I think that's the problem. And I think that's where they need to change it up in a very tough division.
So speaking of that, because Ray's the one that called it, was there not, Ray, with your team, they say the best way to get the coach fired up is to say fire him, and then you can start cheering him later on when things change?
We're sorry. Sorry.
What was it? So what was the first chant that the Devils used again with Ruff? Fire Ruff. And then it says, sorry, Ruff. So was that the way it went? Yeah. Correct me, Ray, if I don't have that right.
Now, so don't talk to him about struggling teams. You want to talk about a good
Let's
team?
talk.
Okay. Which team do you want to get into then?
Well, let's get into New Jersey right now, because, man, they started off right out of the gates. They came like a bat out of hell, man. They were ready. I have been taken aback a bit just by it seemed like it all coincided. It seemed like it all coincided when Hughes was out.
Yes.
And then it's like they've been trying to get back to there. It was fire Lindy, and then it was sorry Lindy. That's what it was. Yeah, you betcha. Thanks, Ray.
I think they're in the market for a goalie. They've been scouting around, seeing what's available, seeing what's out there. Again, doing their due diligence. Tom Fitzgerald, I believe, is still kind of looking around, asking. Like I said, there's been rumblings out of Anaheim. Given that Anaheim's kind of fallen off, they had that 6-game win streak. They were doing well, and now we all know John Gibson is 30 plus. So there's a few more years left on that contract. Some people can say it's albatross, but really, if you want to get good goalie right now, but there's a few teams in the league that need a goalie, right? And I'm looking at a few teams that aren't succeeding. Would they be willing to trade their goalie? Would Columbus be willing to trade Merzlikins, even though he's got quite a bit of cap space or cap left and years left on his contract? Montreal is one that everyone's eyeing, given that they have 3 goaltenders there. Would a Montembeault or Allen be moved? I know they've talked about it potentially, and I know Edmonton was there tonight watching. So where'd you say Edmonton was watching? Where? There's been some scouts from Edmonton in Montreal tonight versus the Columbus Montreal game.
Yes.
I mean, there's things happening. New Jersey does need a goalie. They can still turn it around, although Jack Hughes is such a very important factor.
Yes.
And you know what I don't want to hear? I don't want to hear, well, you can't win. You have to learn how to win without Jack Hughes. Correct. But he still makes your team way better. And you got him for a reason.
You know what? Your superstar's gone. If your superstar's gone, then if you can play 500 hockey for 10 to 20 games, you're going to have a good shot. But if your superstar guy you're playing below 500 hockey and you're going to struggle and you're going to have a hard time. And then the chemistry there and coming back, when you've been dealing with injuries and your mental health or whatever the reasons people go out when they come back in. Absolutely. So a couple things I do want to mention. Edmonton, yes, at the Montreal Columbus. Let's just say, though, they are not just looking. There's a tendency to be focused right now on the goaltenders as another goaltender. Let me just say this. There will be no 2024 first-round draft pick traded for goalies that would be coming out of Montreal should that ever transpire. I'm just going to put that out on the line. I believe that people believing that are actually thinking that they're crazy, because you need a goalie that's going to be better than Skinner in order to be able to pay that kind of price, and that's not going to happen. But they're looking at the Columbus Blue Jackets, so you can leave it and start speculating around that. The other thing Ray talks about is Saros. So my understanding, Ray, I'm not sure what you've heard around some of the different circles and stuff that people are saying in the different media, social media. It sounds like they're no plan to get rid of Saros quickly.
They want to resign him this offseason.
Well, they're
an RFA.
My understanding is, yes, they do. But does he want to actually work through a rebuild to be on a winning team? It's a
retool with that team.
It's a rebuild. That's a rebuild, man. They blew that thing apart.
No, they're a retool.
It's a rebuild. Okay, guys, you know what?
Spot right now.
Okay, let's settle the argument. Folks, is this a retool or a rebuild in Nashville?
It's a retool, not
okay. You can keep talking about it, dude, but let's let the real fans, the people who know what they're talking about, instead of you. You're a cat. A cat doesn't know anything. They just go off minding their own business.
Arm and a leg and probably half of your roster to move Saros out of there, right? It's a mini rebuild. What? I don't think you moved the needle there, Ray. I think we're just
good point. Good. Ray brought up it wasn't just Jack. Totally forgot Nico was out for a little bit. That didn't help you anywhere. And then of course McLeod, to 2C, you're in trouble. That's always in trouble.
Now, the other team that I wanted to talk about a little bit because they have goaltending, but it's also been an issue, is the Buffalo Sabres. They've struggled, and they just sent down Devin Levi, young prospect goalie who had a really good end to the season last year for them.
They needed to
the Rochester, their AHL affiliate. So he's got to rebuild his confidence because he struggled. Now they have one of the best goalie names ever, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I love it. It's my favorite name. It's my next jersey from Buffalo.
Just so everyone knows, he went online and kept repeating it over and over until he could figure out how to say it.
Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. Say that 5 times and he'll appear in your house.
His name is Luukkonen. That's all that matters.
And of course they have Comrie there. So, they're still going with that. At first I thought maybe they trade one of those two guys. I think now they're going to hold on to it. You look at someone like Detroit, who they're doing very well. They picked up Patrick Kane, which I want to get into. But, would James Reimer, who's on a 1-year contract with them, would he be moved, given what they have coming behind the pipes below them? So it's interesting because there are a few out there, and you really got to just solidify your back end. And I don't know, Evan, what does Buffalo do? Do they trade one of those guys and bring back Devin in a couple games, or do you keep him down in the minors?
Well,
as you look at Calgary. Does Vladar get moved and get Dustin Wolf up and finally get playing because he's succeeded at the AHL level, right?
Vladar's gone, man. Vladar's gone by the trade deadline, in my opinion.
What about Markstrom?
Got a few years left. I think that they would like to move Markstrom, but you're going to have a harder time moving on the contract. That's going to be part of the issue. And I think that they'd like Markstrom to be more of an experienced goaltender, actually, that's working with it. So can I mention, I saw a tweet that was actually brought out about Vladar. He's only played 10 or 12 more games than Kiprusoff at the same age, same time, has the same save percentage and pretty much same goals against average. Isn't that kind of an interesting piece of Kiprusoff? People forgot Mikko Kiprusoff came from the San Jose Sharks organization. They thought he was nothing. So just know, I mean, it's a bit depends on the team. There's so many dynamics that are involved in that. But I think the bigger part that you need to be considering when you're with all those goalies, they got to get Wolf into games. They got to get him in. And so they're going to move a goalie. I think Vladar makes the most sense, even if they don't get a whole lot back, right?
Now, Ray's asking about Thatcher Demko. He's not going anywhere. As all the struggles that Vancouver has had in a little bit, they signed him for a good steal of a contract, and he's staying in Vancouver for the time being, as well as having Casey DeSmith as your backup. You're solidified there. And Vancouver has playoff aspirations. They're not changing it. The thing with Demko is that he cannot be overplayed. That's the biggest challenge there. So we'll see what takes place.
So what are you meaning by can't be overplayed? What's your thought? What you're meaning by that?
He's played more than 50, 60 plus games, and he's been burnt out, right? And he just can't handle that workload. And I think you're seeing more and more in the NHL, apart from maybe the odd Shesterkin, Vasilevsky, Saros, who can play that amount of games, but it's a lot, and still be successful in the playoffs and go for a deep run. It's tough, right? So that's what I see it as.
No, that makes sense.
Has signed the final sweepstakes.
I told you guys, give it 3 to 6 days. I said give it 3 to 6 days. It's coming down.
Daniel Sprung has allowed him to have his number 88 back. He signed for 1 year, $2.5 million. You guys can let us know. But Evan, your thoughts on the deal?
Oh, well, what can you say? I think that it's a perfect setup for him. He has a chance to come in. The team is actually a contending team this year. I think if they weren't contending, he wouldn't have gone in that direction. Buffalo thought they had a better shot at him than they did. I think he was intrigued by the hometown, but I think Buffalo's bad start did not help them. And he's He's hoping he has a better chance. And I think he likes the freewheeling style of Detroit. And let's face it, it's closer to Chicago.
Well, you're forgetting a very important factor. He played with Alex DeBrincat.
Yes.
Had great success with him in Chicago.
Yeah.
Bring it
that
all around to the beginning, right? So
yeah.
I think
exactly.
And yeah, that team definitely can make waves. And Ray's indicating if Winnipeg continues to tumble, I could see Hellebuck making a stink. Possibly.
So Ray, it's funny. I know you're really good at bringing us back to Hellebuck all the time. Definitely, he's the goalie you want in Jersey if you can get him an 8.5 because it's already signed now, right? But my understanding
7.5.
8.5 is what he signed. 8.25. Where we go here? Let me just see. He is signed for $8.5 million, and he has 4 5-year contracts.
Him and Shively signed the exact same contracts for
5 years.
Right?
Five. Well, mine only goes up for 5 years. It's showing on it. Maybe it's more here. Okay, guys, sorry. I'm on Cap Friendly right now, showing 8.5, but it might be a 7-year. You're right. So anyway, but you are absolutely. I could still see him being moved out, and I know he'd have interest to go to New Jersey if they can make the numbers work, and if it makes Winnipeg stronger, that's a very good chance. But chances are you're looking like someone like Nico probably going out that door though, in order to obtain him. So the question is, so that'd be one of the things that you're going to have to be able to look at with that coming in. So, hey, before I just want to mention, because our time is getting away from us,
sure.
we can go to what you want to say, but I got to do my Revs top 15 and get into my number 10. So let's not forget, we only got 9 minutes left.
You got it. So I want to share a positive story because Ray has been hounding us about this. And I think it's a very important story in the NHL, given all the chaos that's been going on in the darkness. The Philadelphia Flyers. Can I get into this?
Okay. Why don't we do this? Why don't we mention one of our sponsors?
Sure.
And let's do a little clip here for Around the Rink. Okay?
Sure.
All right, guys. So Penny Billionaires, they are the exclusive song that we have for our intro and our ending when we come in and go out. They are partners with us. You can follow them on all things music and check them out. Their new song, Invincible, plus several others on YouTube, elsewhere. Penny Billionaires, an electronic hard rock fuse band. So they bring to us tonight's segment, Around the Rink.
All right. So, some positive news out of the Philadelphia Flyland. I know that they've struggled a little bit, but they did sign to an entry-level deal Mr. Owen Michuche. I may mispronounce it. He's a young 9-year-old guy, kiddo, he's a 9-year-old dude, 9-year-old kiddo who is dealing with cancer. And to raise awareness and to bring about a little bit of joy in his life, they brought him on the ice on the game last night that they played. And he got to play with the club because it's one of his favorites. He is himself a captain of his own team for the Genesis Hockey Club. And, he was diagnosed at the age of 6 months. So he continues to battle. But the fact that the Philadelphia Flyers brought him out on the ice and he got to skate in kind of the practice and sit on the bench in the first period, and John Tortorella kind of sat with him, and we all know Torts' personality. That was a pretty good uplifting story. I'm glad the NHL didn't come in and say no about that. And it just goes to show you that there are great initiatives in the league, and good for Owen and his family. And just like Ben here in Edmonton, I think we need to recognize some of the people who are struggling beyond hockey, because there is a world beyond hockey. There's life beyond it. And that sometimes hockey can bring us together and bring a little bit of joy in our lives. So I applaud the Philadelphia Flyers organization.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and that you got to love it, right?
A bunch of goons, they're a bunch of beauties. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, and cutting back on what you're saying about Ray was saying the NHL is all screwed up and they're so tired of the negativity. It's good to no, exactly. It is. It's good to have that positivity around a lot of the different things that are happening. I mean, and let's face it, there is a ton of scoring. The games have been exciting. There's still been a lot of good stuff. It's just that it's the crazy stuff that they don't get on top of. And Ray says, hey, it's not your fault the NHL is ass backwards. Haha. Yes, exactly. So anyway, guys, hey, we just want to give a thanks again to Penny Billionaires for Around the Rink. I want to give a shout out here on my going into my Revs top 15. So JR Web Designs is our he takes care of our website, so you guys can check us out at twoguysandhockeytalk.com. You can follow articles, you can follow all of our former guests, different stuff going on. Plus, our podcast goes live through our YouTube channel right on there. Make sure you guys follow us every Wednesday here live. Thank you so much to all of you guys who have been joining in and engaging in live conversation. But on top of it, if you have not, get your notifications, like, follow, subscribe between YouTube, Facebook, and also check us out on X. Thanks to all of our new X followers that we have. Not X's in, they're no longer there, but the new X followers, the Twitter on steroids, as we call it. So, guys, I'm going to go into number 10 on the Revs 15 with JR Web Designs, our proud sponsor. Number 10, this was not a ranking. This has changed in the last month and a half. From my original, I had him further down the line, but I am going to move up Mr. Iginla Jr. to number 10. Totij Iginla. This guy has come out like a storm, 28 points in 24 games. But this is the cool part. Talk about being a goal scorer. 19 goals in 24 games. Can you imagine? Wow. 19 goals in 24 games. Like that. Exactly right. So if you think of this, in the WHL as a 17-year-old, he is number 6 overall. The highest guy is Sidorov, okay? And he has actually played the exact same amount of games. He has 24, so he has 5 more goals. But this guy plays for the Saskatoon Blades, who are doing extremely well as well, but he is an older player. So the difference is Iginla's come in, he's played his heart out. He is an amazing player. The thing is he is a lot like his dad. He's gritty. I know Flames fans are just kind of like, ooh, what if we could get another Iginla into the you're not going to have a chance to get him. He will be off the board. So I'm encouraging you to take a look, go through. He got traded from last year from the Seattle Thunderbirds. He got traded over to the Kelowna Rockets. Give the Kelowna Rockets of the WHL a follow. Give Totij Iginla a follow, because that will be one player that you're going to be glad that you actually got involved with. The guy is amazing. And so he's number 10 on my Revs top 15. Oh. All right. I think I heard you and I cut you off, but you have one last comment for the night.
How old do you think we have to be to know that Jerome Iginla's kid is about to be drafted and potentially?
Oh my goodness!
Like, it's time flies.
Good stuff.
It's insane.
Okay, well, we didn't get a whole lot outside of the NHL other than a little bit of the prospects, guys, but there was just so much going on tonight. And thanks to all of your guys' banter around the different stuff that's been happening. So want to say a big thank you and a shout out to you all. You guys are the rock stars of our live show engagement. So, hey, any last thing that you just want to quickly touch base or say or talk about before we call it a wrap?
I like hockey stories. I like chaos and conflict and drama, just not the kind that we got this past week. So I'm hoping we change it up a bit and have some on-ice antics like we did with the Florida-Ottawa game. And I got to be honest, right now, the West is a mashup for who's getting in where. I don't even know. Like, teams are struggling, teams are up, teams are down, and like anything goes. Normally, you know how Brian Burke has talked about, by Thanksgiving, you tentatively, if you're around this area, the playoff line, in the playoff hunt, you're more likely to get in. And that's very true. I mean, you look at Calgary, you look at Edmonton, you look at Minnesota, you look at Toronto even, who only has 5 regulation wins. They have more in overtime, and are tied with San Jose for the same amount of regulation wins this season. What is happening in the NHL, Evan? Not to mention, that was a good call by the Toronto War Room for that overtime shootout against Evan Rodriguez and Joseph Woll. I don't know if you saw that, but that was a wild one where he double tapped the stick in the shootout. And so even though the Panthers thought it was a goal, it was not a goal. There's no conspiracy that's trying to make the Toronto Maple Leafs succeed, as people like to believe, right? Anyways, it's been a wild few days of hockey this week. I'm looking forward to a wild few more. Your thoughts?
Oh no, I'm looking forward. Got a whole bunch of stuff. I don't even want to get into any more thoughts because I got about 17 more thoughts. I want to encourage you guys.
Get one in
there. Okay. The thought I'm going to give you guys before the Christmas deadline. I'm going to call out a large trade that's going to be a player of decent value, at least a 55% chance that you're going to see a good trade coming down before Christmas, which is not the norm. And I also am going to predict right now, if not 90, 91 is going to be the Western getting in, which normally it's 96 points to get into a wild card. I think they could be as low as 90 or 91 this year. So, whoa, baby. He doesn't know what to say to my whoa, baby. Well, guys.
I'm stunned. Guys, thank you.
Okay, you do it, man. Let's go.
I know. Go ahead. I thought you seem to want to share more thoughts. But okay. Well, go ahead.
I don't want to end. I love everybody. You know what? The end. Okay, this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to steal a thought. We love to steal stuff, so we're going to steal a little phrase that's used at the end of the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival, and it's, "Mommy, it's over." Guys,
well, thank you, everyone. It's been a fun-filled episode again. Remember to like, share, subscribe, give a follow to all our sponsors. Thank you to Penny Billionaires for amazing music, JR Web Design for our website, Sports Empire, for all your sporting needs. We are back here next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, again, live to bring you all the news. Go follow our website at 2 Guys in Hockey Talk, where you get the latest and the greatest news on the NHL, KHL, the new PWHL, and everything HL based. And whatever you guys want to reach out to Evan at X on REVNEV or me at hockey_2. We love chatting with you. We love having safe and healthy discussions. And we always enjoy your feedback. Let us know what you like, you don't like, and why we want Evan off the show and need more. And Evan, how do we always close out?
Well, we say in the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe.
Stay safe. Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche. Done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tide. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract